What's up guys, it's Dumb DV Media here and I am back making a quick check-in video. Kind of going over the first gen Tundra. I wanted to make another video talking about the ultimate buyer's guide. Let's start off with why you want to get the first gen Tundra and why most people are actually starting to jump on that bandwagon and what I've been seeing a lot in the touring / overlanding community. So even with the newer generations being packed with technology and all these crazy gadgets and like lane departure and huge screens and these great they're also being plagued with a lot of problems. And so I think that the first gen and the second gen are actually starting to increase in value because a lot of the guys that are doing third gens are going back to the second and the first gen. And to me personally, the first gen is actually a better bang for your buck. And I know, I'm just gonna tell you why, okay? So one, it is a full-size truck, but it's like the same size as a mid-size. It's almost the same exact length as a third gen Tacoma, but you get that V8 and you have that mid-size, full-size feel. And it's a great truck. I mean, parts are reliable. We know it's a million mile engine. There's just a bunch of things that you can do to these trucks depending on what you want to get. Why I made this video specifically for the person that's interested in this first generation Tundra. Let's call this the ultimate buyer's guide, kind of loosely, and what you should look for, what not to look for, and some of the things that I think that you should do and you should budget for when you buy one of these trucks. So let's talk about the Legendary 2UZ FE, right? There are different variations between the first gen Tundra. So if you're looking at the 2000 to 2004, you might get the 2UZ FE that's non-VVTi, which is the variable timing that was creating the engines. And I think there's a secondary pump system that I'm not gonna pretend I know anything about because I've never had one, but I have heard that they have failures, and I have heard that the variable timing one is a little bit more difficult to tune and whatnot, and even supercharged, but I could be wrong, so please I'm just throwing this in there for you guys. 2004 engine that I have does not have VVTi, but it also has a lot of fun little things like a transmission dipsticks, with the 2006 and 2005 double cab don't have. So let's talk about the different ones, right? I'm not gonna get into my SR5, TRD trims, all that good stuff, because I did have an SR5 off-road TRD rear-wheel drive only, and it was a lot of fun. It was great. Owning both sides with the rear-wheel drive and the four-wheel drive all day, I have to say that for what I need and overlanding and touring and all that good stuff, the four-wheel drive version was the one I wanted second time around. If you're looking for a clean example four-wheel drive in California without having to worry about the rust, clean title, low mileage, expect to spend about $8K to about $14K depending on what they have done to the vehicle. I personally like the limited trim, which comes with the leather seats, the heated, a little bit more tech, the tweeters, the JBL system, all that good stuff. I personally like that version. I had the cloth seats before and it was all gray with the dark interior. Personally, the leather has grown on me. I used to make fun of it. I thought the black and tan was ugly, but when you're in it and when you're driving around it and you have passengers and people, it's actually a really good feeling. I do like the way that the leather feels. I like the way that it drives. It is a little bit better, and if you could find it with good condition seats, I'd highly recommend you get that. Let's talk about the drivetrain. So the 2000 to 2004 comes with a 4-speed, and overdrive, the 05, 06 has a 5-speed, and I have to say their transmission is smooth. I've been in the 05 and 06 one, which has the VVTi and the freaking 5-speed transmission, and it just rides so much smoother. I'm not gonna lie. I'd say that that's like the best part about owning those newer generations. But the 04 does have a very reliable 4-speed, and if you maintain it and take care of it, it'll last you a really long time, guys. So I want to talk a little bit about the key maintenance things that you should be looking into when you buy one of these trucks, because I know the price tags and everything looks really great, but from my experience and me owning a Sequoia and the Tundra first gens, there are some things that you need to look out for. And unfortunately, these are 20-plus-year-old vehicles, and they do need some work, guys. I mean, don't expect to buy this vehicle thinking that it's gonna be a brand new truck and it's gonna work great. No, you're gonna have to dig in, you're gonna have to know some stuff, and some of the main things that you can look for when you go buy one will hopefully avoid that headache. So that's why I'm gonna give you this checklist here. The main thing that you have to know is that these engines, the 2UZ FE, comes with a timing belt. And that is gonna be the first thing that you wanna look at, is the timing belt. I don't care when it was done, where it was done, how it was done, make sure that thing was done. And if it hasn't been done, or they say maybe it's been done, you need a budget for that. Oil changes are really easy. All you use is 5W30, and I think it's about 6 quarts. You don't have to go full synthetic, guys. Just get the regular conventional oil, you'll be fine. I myself, when I did use Amsoil oil, fully synthetic OE, and I also did a filter, and I could throw in kind of which size it was and all that good stuff. I did like it, but I didn't see a huge significant difference. It's not a performance engine at the end of the day, but I'm almost hitting 200,000 miles, so that's what I ended up doing. Spark plugs too aren't really that expensive, guys. You can go to the dealership and give them your VIN. They're gonna give you a spec sheet, all that good stuff. I highly recommend you get that. And the spark plugs were only $4. They're NGK, they're OEM, and they're already spaced out for you. So highly recommend you just spend the $4 for each spark plug and just get it done immediately, right away. Even if this guy said that it's been changed, just do it. Now at the same time that you do the spark plugs, make sure that you do the fuel filter. It's $20 at AutoZone, or you can buy it at the dealership when you buy the spark plugs. You have to do them around the same time, and I highly recommend you do that. So whenever you plan on getting your spark plugs done, go underneath, make sure all the doors are closed, and then take the fuel filter out, and I'll kind of show you like where it is and all that good stuff, and then take it off. I recommended that you do your radiator every 30,000 miles. I mean, you can prolong it just depending on how hard or what strenuous adventures you're doing on your truck. And just make sure to maintain that radiator fluid. And always look in there too, because I think you can get the milkshake of death, which is when the radiator and the transmission fluid mesh together. So highly suggest that you take a look at that. Now, brake fluid, these trucks, the one that I have is limited, and my SR5 also had ABS, and I highly suggest that you try not to touch that fluid unless you know for sure that it's been done completely. Those old ABS systems don't work that well, and these brakes are really small. Now the 04 does have a bigger brake caliper in the front than the 05 and 06 from one of my old, I think like the old videos, someone told me that, and I actually looked it up and it's true. Another thing you want to look at is scan for codes. If you don't have a code scanner, just know that you need to save some money and go to a mechanic and get it scanned properly and look if there was any codes that were erased or removed. Transmission fluid, you can use Dexon 3 ATF, right, automatic transmission fluid, and just make sure that you change it about every 30 to 60,000 miles, again, just depending on how hard you drive it or if you're towing. I believe on the Toyota Tundra owner's manual, it says it's about 2 quarts or 3 quarts, and I'm at about 5 quarts. So yours may vary, it just depends. Sometimes those transmission gaskets go out and you have to put more fluid than what's expected. I noticed that now going to Amsoil oil, I'm slipping a lot more, and I think that was my own fault. So I pretty much shot myself in the foot replacing the transmission fluid because I didn't know if the owner did it before. And so I ended up doing it just because I was like, well, I need to make sure to get it done when I shouldn't have touched it. Like, that's why I'm giving you this video now to let you know, hey, possibly don't touch transmission fluid if you've never ever seen it on their manual or their documents saying that they've done it, or if the owner tells you, hey, I've never changed a transmission fluid, because you don't need to do it at that point. You're just gonna have to wait until it blows up. And to be honest, it's gonna run a long time, and that's kind of where I messed up. The thing is the transfer cases. So when you have 4-wheel drive, you will have to replace the transfer case. And that uses GL5, I think it's 75W-90. And it's 1.1 quart, or just use whatever fluid was used inside the transfer case before you bought it secondhand. I always recommend that you do this at least 30,000 miles. It's honestly not that bad, guys. It's 1 bolt, super easy. 2 bolts actually, a breather bolt, and then 1 to take it out. Make sure that you always take the breather one out first, because if it's shredded on the top and you don't know, then you go to the bottom and do it, and then guess what? You're kind of SOL. Now the front differential also uses the same thing. It's a 75W-90, but it is not gear oil, so make sure that you differentiate which one you're using. That's very important. Now, I could be saying it wrong while I'm doing this presentation, so I will show you guys clips along the way. And basically, you're gonna wanna change that fluid as well every 30 to 60,000 miles. And I do that, again, I wanna make sure that your fluids are good. This is a 20-plus-year-old vehicle, just do it. The rear uses 75W-140. Just make sure to replace that one, differentiate from the other ones. Again, 30 to 60,000 miles. Maintain your guys' differentials. You don't want to blow that thing out. And always check any of the bolts that you have to see if there's anything. Look in there for any residues or any blown gearing. So,
when you remove these plugs, they have a magnet. Normally they have a magnet. Well, pretty much it's gonna have a magnet. That's to hold all the metal shavings that are gonna come apart from normal wear, which is, there's some metal here which is normal. This is good. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see pieces of gear in here, because that means that something's broken. This little dust, it's like metal dust. This is normal. This is what you want to see.
Okay, let's talk about the exterior. So for the most part in California, you really don't have to deal with this as much. And I'm talking about rust, so always look for rust. A little surface rust isn't a big deal, but when you start seeing things being broken, like glow points, frames, anything like that, stay away from the truck. It's not worth it. Don't put your time on rebuilding the frame unless it's like a little bit and you can like take care of it with like the drill that, you know, takes out the surface rust, then fine. But save your money and go look for another one. Being in California, you also deal with a lot of sun damage, so clear coat, removing all that stuff. Unless you have a budget saved for painting your truck, I wouldn't even recommend that, because for what I do, touring and overlanding, all that good stuff, I get a lot of scratches from the trail, so I'm not gonna repaint the truck. It just doesn't make sense for me. So I was trying to look for a good, clean example, and you know, I found one that we were able to take care of. So we did a 2-step or 3-step paint correction and ceramic coating. It may not be in your budget, or if you know how to do it, then do it and take care of it, because that paint will thank you later. I mean, we're talking about a 20-plus-year-old paint job, and you just need to make sure that you take care of that stuff. Buying one that already has the damage and stuff, just know that you're probably just gonna want to paint over it, and also it's not gonna look that good. So if you are okay with wrapping it, which I really don't think I would recommend for an overland old truck that you're gonna be building, because you're gonna be having to replace that wrap in about 2 to 3 years anyway, because it's big, and I just wouldn't waste my time, guys. Unless you're trying to make it look cool, then fine, to each your own. All right, I also now wanna bring up the topic about suspension. Now, guys, this is a 20-plus-year-old vehicle. I'm gonna keep saying that. And if not, it's a 2006 or 2007, that early model one. Just know that you're most likely going to be replacing a lot of suspension components. And this is an IFS system. Of course, they over-engineered this in the past, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have its flaws. The biggest flaw on these vehicles is the lower ball joints. Just straight up, sucks. If you don't know, or they don't know if they ever did it, just bite the bullet and do it. Because that lower ball joint will snap, it will break, and it's gonna cost you a lot more to fix it. Another thing is just make sure that if they have a leveling kit or any shocks or anything done, how long ago was done. It's really not that expensive, guys, and if you can budget appropriately and you can get the truck for a really good price, you can probably knock them down even more just saying you're gonna replace the suspension, because you don't know how old it is or when they got it. And if it's new, then good for you. I mean, that's great, but the factory suspension isn't really all that nice, and it's not that good to off-road in. Not saying that you can't, I'm just saying I personally wouldn't, but, and I have, it sucks. But, you know, the budget isn't too bad to get a 5100 front and rear setup. It's not that expensive, it's easy, and it's cheap. But if you're talking full coilover system, just know that you need to save a lot of money on the side, because you're going to want to just take care of the upper control arms, which is another point that you want to take care of. The upper control arm, make sure it has Zerk fittings, make sure that your lower control arms work with what you're going to be doing. So if you're doing a 2.5 to 3 inch lift, I highly suggest that you maybe don't replace the lower control arms until you can budget for it properly. But if you do end up wanting to go higher than 2.5 to 3 inches, you're going to be starting to mess with lower ball joints, lower control arms, upper control arms, spindles, like the whole 9 yards. So you got to budget for that. So speaking about, like, you know, the lower control arms and the upper control arms, you can find a good, affordable, recommended company like Hamburg Racing or Off-Road, Freedom Off-Road, or even go OEM if you're not going to be doing some crazy lift. Just know that if you do a spacer lift, yes, you're increasing the front, and okay, it's going to look nice, but the stock shock on a spacer lift sucks. don't do it. While we're on the topic of suspension and maintenance, always take a look at your sway links. Those things are super common to break, especially on these trucks. And the sway links are like 40 bucks for the performance ones at AutoZone that you can do and replace them on limited times. They have a lifetime warranty. I highly recommend those because they're 35 to 45 bucks and they're actually thicker. And I know a lot of people are gonna say, well, don't get AutoZone parts, but for this, you just snap them so much that you might as well just take care of it. I've never snapped my AutoZone sway links so far, and the old factory ones snap I don't know how many times. And you can go maybe Pathfinder to raise the clearance on your sway bar, but if you're not going above 3 inches again. So while you're inspecting your CV axles and your sway links, make sure that the bushings are good, the CV axle's not torn or ripped, there's no grease coming out of anywhere, and you should be good. If you see all that's clear and your tie rods are good and the power steering isn't super noisy, then the suspension is pretty good. But if you start to see or hear squeaks and rattles, make sure that you take a look at it, even the rear side. If you see any squeaks or rattles on the shocks or the leaf springs, it's not that expensive to replace them and you can do it yourself. One thing that I highly recommend 100% that you do yourself is that you put some grease every time you do an oil change. So for me, I have coilovers and upper control arms and all that good stuff. So I actually do my Zerk fittings and I grease them up every single oil change, and I'm starting to make sure that I do that a lot because you'll start getting a lot more squeaks and a lot more rattles and it's not going to perform optimal. Then clean off the dirt with any lube or anything on the top of the upper control arm, and I'll show you guys in the clips. Talk about interior. Now compared to the Tacoma and the forerunners of its current generation, I think the Tundra kind of hit it the best. To be honest, it's a lot more luxurious, and even the SR5 one's pretty nice, but again, I recommend the leather. You have heated seats, you have JBL, you have tweeters, you have a DVD system in some of them. Mine has a DVD system. Mine has the Pioneer in-dash AVX, whatever, 110. It's okay, honestly. I probably would wish to get a bigger screen, but I watch DVDs. And so I'll put the DVDs on while we're driving, especially because we have long road trips, so I want to make sure that it's pretty good. All right, guys, final thoughts is that these trucks are super reliable. I know I'm giving you a lot of information all at once and making you fear that like you got to check all these things. No, they're pretty good. I bought the Toyota Tundra sight unseen. I already knew what I wanted. I knew I could take care of it. I budgeted with my friends and looked at everything to make sure that we can do this. And I knew that this was the move. So I didn't actually bring a scanner. I didn't do all those things, but I anticipated failure. And so with that being said, I ended up finding a good vehicle and it ended up working out at the end of the day. And I think that you guys can too, but as long as I give you some knowledge to like what to look for on these trucks, then absolutely my recommendation is jump on one. But make sure that it's in at least good condition and that you can trust it and say, hey, tomorrow I want to go 1,000 miles and I'm not gonna have to worry about breaking down. This is the right truck for you. I mean, absolutely. I'm going 2,600 miles in the next week or so, and I don't fear, I'm not worrying, I'm towing, and I'd do it again. I would absolutely. I love taking this truck out. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and thank you.